I grew up in a very small town in Iceland, surrounded by mountains and the ocean. And you hear all these textures and sounds that kind of just become the soundtrack to your life, and I was paying attention to those sounds. When I'm inspired by nature, it's because of the musical qualities I find in it, not to try to take an element from nature. And it's something that I really kind of embrace in my music without wanting to describe it. It's more about taking the inspiration and putting it into music. It depends where the inspiration comes from. Sometimes it's about the balances and the kind of structural forces and opposites in nature. It's not really about the romanticism or about the emotion. Nature can be so brutal, and that's also inspiring. When I'm starting to think about a new piece, I spend a lot of time on the initial stage, finding the music and finding what it is that the piece wants and needs. And it's when I have a rather clear idea about how the structure is going to be and some of the sound textures and nuances and sometimes some lyrical patterns, then I start to sketch the piece to remember how it sounds. So the sketches, they vary actually quite a lot. Sometimes they are these huge graphic images that serve as mnemonic device for me. Sometimes these pictures also indicate the harmony for each part and even lyrical patterns. It's always a really good device for myself to remember, because it's just so hard to keep it always at the front of your mind and you don't want to forget. I hear the sounds and I draw the sounds out. It's not that I draw an image and then try to write that into music. They are laid out from beginning to end so that I can listen through it in real time. Then I rather quickly want to move into just writing music. I write so detailed notation. I write every single element possible into my music, even bow pressure and everything. The way that I experience music is, to me, not even just three-dimensional. It's everywhere, and I feel it in here and physically and emotionally and everywhere. That's why one of my favorite things to write is an orchestra score, because there are so many things to do, so many layers, so many instruments to work with, an overload of sensations in every way. The way that I think about a score and the relationship between the different identities, the different instruments, is that you are carrying this same thing from beginning to end, but you are all doing something different. And I always have a few layers going on at the same time that then move between instrumental groups or individual performers. something I'm really fascinated with is to actually go back and forth, drawing out the individuals. It's a way of focus and then bringing them together, allowing the individualities and identities to come out of the overall picture. To me, it's like an ecosystem of sounds that, come together and breathe together. That's the way that I kind of fundamentally think about orchestration. I've worked a lot with kind of atmospheric settings for music and ways of placing instruments and even installations with my music. It's really about creating an external environment for the music as a total experience. When I've used light installations with my pieces, the lights have become almost like an external instrument where you feed the music, the audio, into the lights so they flicker in kind of real time with the music. So it's like visual music. My kind of own composition voice grew very early, I think, but also very gradually. And it's a part of, knowing the reason why you're making music, and it was always very kind of close to me. But the things that I am interested in music is kind of combination between sounds, sound structures, harmonies and lyrical materials, and breath between all those layers and things that you work with in music. And for example, writing ethereal things out like melodies and sounds that may not be considered traditionally beautiful, making them into some textures that become lyrics. I think that kind of describes how I at least think about it, but it's then for each and everyone who listens to kind of identify for themselves. That's something I believe in very strongly.